When we're unawakened, our energy systems are harder, they're more shut down, they're more closed off. And when the spiritual awakening starts, boom, everything just opens up. Your whole energy system opens up and it starts to work in a really, really faster way, more ascended way, receiving a lot more energy than it ever did before.
You think you're awake, but you're not. You believe you've seen through the lies, broken the chains, and freed your mind. Maybe you've even felt it, that shift, that spark, that energy coursing through you, making you feel like you're on the brink of something huge. But the truth is, you're still asleep, the illusion of awakening. And you will stay that way, trapped, confused, endlessly seeking, until you understand the four bodies of your soul. No one tells you about them, not in school, not in church, not in those quick-fix spiritual awakening guides that promise enlightenment in 5 easy steps. Because if you knew the truth, you'd stop searching outside yourself. You'd stop wasting time chasing hollow ideas of high vibrations or manifestation secrets. You'd stop looking for gurus, saviors, or mystical shortcuts. Most people will never awaken because they never grasp this simple yet shattering reality. You are more than your mind, more than your flesh, more than your emotions. And until you integrate all 4 bodies of your soul, you will keep hitting walls, stuck in cycles, never truly breaking free. The ancient mystery schools knew this. The alchemists knew it. The shamans, the monks, the sages, they all understood that awakening isn't a single moment of realization. It's an unraveling, death and rebirth, and it begins with seeing where you actually stand. So where are you? Right now you exist in a fragile dream. You think you're making decisions, controlling your path, steering toward enlightenment. But what if I told you that most of your thoughts aren't even yours? What if the emotions you trust, the ones that feel so personal, have been conditioned into you? What if your body, yes, the very vessel you inhabit, is not what you think it is? Let's start there. Your physical body provides a limited perception of reality, the cage of the physical body. You feel hunger, so you eat. You feel tired, so you sleep. You feel pain, so you react. Seems simple, right? But what if your physical body is just the first layer of a deeper prison? Hinduism's philosophy of Maya hints at this. What you perceive through your senses is an illusion. You think you're experiencing reality, but you're only getting a fragment of it, a narrow, distorted version carefully filtered through flesh, nerves, and brain chemicals. Your body craves comfort, pleasure, and safety. It resists change. It resists truth. That's why most people will never awaken, because their bodies betray them. You say you want enlightenment, but your body wants predictability. You dream of transcendence, but your body clings to routine. It's wired for survival, not for awakening. The instinct for survival can sometimes hinder personal transformation. Look at the Buddha. He had to abandon his palace, his comforts, his very identity before he could awaken. Look at Jesus. 40 days in the desert, starving, tempted, stripped of every physical certainty. Why? Because until the body is put in its place, the soul cannot rise. The first step to real awakening isn't chanting affirmations or burning sage. It's seeing the body for what it is, a tool, not a master. And most people never get past this step. The hidden chains of the emotional body. You felt it before, that sudden rush of anger, that deep sadness that won't let go, that overwhelming fear that grips you when you least expect it. You assume these emotions belong to you, that they are part of who you are. But what if they aren't? What if the emotions you carry have been handed down, implanted and programmed into you from the moment you were born? Think about it. As a child, you weren't born afraid. Fear and doubt are often learned over time. These emotions were taught to you, conditioned into you. They shape how you see the world, how you react, how you define yourself, and now, without realizing it, they control you. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna that the greatest battle is not against an external enemy, but against the self. And that battle is fought in the emotional body. Fear, guilt, shame, anger. These are the real chains that keep you asleep. You can meditate all you want, repeat mantras and visualize your higher self. But if you are still ruled by your emotions, you are not free. And here's the real kicker. Most emotions don't even come from you. Think about how you react when someone insults you. That immediate anger, that tightening in your chest, is that really you? Or is it a conditioned response, programmed into you by years of social rules, personal wounds, and ancestral trauma? Now imagine being free of that. Imagine feeling anger but not being controlled by it. Imagine experiencing sadness but not becoming it. Imagine fear knocking at your door and simply watching it, untouched, unshaken. That is power. That is the beginning of true awakening. But to get there, you have to face everything. Every suppressed emotion, every buried wound, every fear you've shoved down and ignored. This is why most people turn back. They don't want to look at their pain. They don't want to see their shadows. And that's exactly why they never wake up. The body binds you, the emotions chain you, but these are only the first 2 layers of the 4-body system. There are still 2 more, deeper, more elusive, and more dangerous to ignore. The mental prison you don't see. You think you're in control. You believe your thoughts belong to you. You assume that when an idea arises in your mind, it's because you chose to think about it. But what if I told you that most of your thoughts aren't yours? You've been conditioned, programmed, and shaped by forces you can't even see. Society, culture, family, media, all of it has been constructing your mental reality since the moment you opened your eyes. And here's the terrifying part. You have never questioned it. You can break free from the body. You can even transcend emotional wounds. But until you dismantle the mental body, the hidden architect of your reality, you will never be truly awake. And this is where most people stop. They meditate, they do yoga, they chant affirmations, they think they're reaching higher levels of consciousness, but inside, their mental body is still trapped in loops, still playing by rules they never wrote. Do you want the truth? The mental body is the most dangerous of all 4 bodies, because it convinces you that you're free when you're not. Consider this: where did your beliefs come from? Your ideas about love, money, success, happiness, did you create them? Or were they fed to you? From the moment you were born, your mind was a blank slate. Then the programming began. Parents, teachers, religions, governments, media, each one poured their version of truth into you. They told you what was possible, what was impossible, what was good, what was evil, and you accepted it because you didn't know any better. But here's the truth they don't want you to see. Your mind is not who you are. It is a system, a tool, a machine running programs that were installed without your permission. René Descartes, in his concept of Cartesian dualism, argued that the mind and the self are not the same thing. In Meditations on First Philosophy, he famously declared, "Cogito ergo sum," I think, therefore I am. But he also made it clear that thoughts are not necessarily a reflection of one's true self. Instead, the mind can be influenced by external forces, culture, upbringing, and societal conditioning, just as a machine can be programmed. This is why you keep sabotaging yourself. Why do you crave change but never fully achieve it? Your conscious mind wants something new, but your subconscious is still running old scripts. You try to break free, but the programming pulls you back. It's like a computer infected with a virus. No matter how many times you restart it, the problem remains, because the virus is embedded in the system itself. So how do you purge the virus? The mind is a trickster. The first thing you must understand is that your mental body will fight you. It doesn't want to be exposed. It will do anything to protect its illusions, even if those illusions are keeping you trapped. That's why, when you start questioning your reality, your mind reacts with fear, doubt, resistance. Ever noticed how, when you begin considering something outside the norm, something truly different, your first reaction is discomfort, maybe even anger? That's the program defending itself. Think of Plato's allegory of the cave. The prisoners have been chained in darkness their entire lives, seeing only shadows on the wall. One day, a prisoner escapes and sees the real world. But when he returns to free the others, they refuse to believe him. Why? Because their minds are comfortable in the lie. And that's exactly what happens when people start waking up. They question reality. They glimpse something deeper, and then fear kicks in. The mental body panics. The ego screams, "No, go back to what you know." And most people obey. If you truly want to awaken, you must be willing to destroy the illusions inside your own mind. That means questioning everything, not just religion, not just the government, not just the media, everything, your own opinions, your own identity, even your deepest truths. Because if you're clinging to an identity, if you believe you already know who you are still asleep. The mental body is still in control. Real awakening isn't about adding new beliefs. It's about undoing the ones that were never truly yours. It's unsettling, even frightening, like shedding an old self. But that's because, in a way, it is. The mental body must die before the higher self can be born. The false guru trap. Here's where most seekers get lost. They sense that something is off, that they're living inside a construct. But instead of dismantling their own minds, they seek new beliefs to replace the old ones. They jump from religion to religion, from ideology to ideology, from guru to guru. Each time they think, this is it, this is the truth. But they're still in the same mental cage, just redecorated. Buddha warned about this when he said, "Do not believe anything simply because you have heard it. Do not believe anything simply because it is spoken by a teacher. Find out for yourself. That is the key. No one can hand you the truth. You must unearth it yourself." As you begin breaking free, the mental body will make one last desperate attempt to pull you back. This is where many people self-destruct. They start questioning too much, too fast. Their reality unravels. They feel lost, disconnected, and adrift in a sea of uncertainty. And in that moment, the mental body whispers, "Just go back. Forget all this. It's too much. It's easier to stay asleep." Most people listen. They retreat. They rebuild the old illusions. They convince themselves that their previous beliefs were right all along. But a few, the rare few, push through. They let themselves fall into the unknown. They let their false self dissolve. They walk straight into the abyss, knowing that on the other side something deeper awaits. And what is that deeper truth? You think your thoughts control you. But what if I told you they don't? You think your rational mind makes decisions and that logic guides your choices. But it doesn't. Your mental body is just a puppet. The real master, your emotional body, it's silent and invisible, yet it dictates every action you take. Every time you self-sabotage, hesitate, or chase things that destroy you, it's not your mind that's responsible. It's the wounds, the scars, the unprocessed emotions stored deep inside you. And until you face them, you will never be free, the emotional prison you live in. Most people have no idea that their emotional body even exists. They think emotions are just fleeting feelings, happiness, sadness, anger, love, temporary reactions to life. But the truth is, your body is a living entity. It's not just reacting to the world, it's shaping your reality. Imagine a person who was abandoned as a child. That wound still exists inside them, buried deep. They grow up and become an adult, but that emotional pain doesn't disappear, it just hides. Now, every relationship they enter is filtered through that old wound. They either cling too tightly, fearing abandonment, or push people away before they can be left. They think they're making these choices consciously. They're not. Their emotional body is in control, and the same thing is happening to you. Think about the things you fear the most, the things that make your chest tighten and your stomach drop. Now ask yourself, why did you choose to fear them? Did you decide one day to be terrified of rejection, failure, loneliness? Of course not. Those emotions were programmed into you. Maybe by a childhood experience, maybe by trauma, maybe by something as small as a cruel word spoken to you years ago. And now your body carries those wounds like invisible chains, pulling you back whenever you try to step beyond them. Every time you get close to success but sabotage yourself, that's your emotional body. Every time you push away love because it feels too good to be true, that's your emotional body. Every time you avoid risks, stay in toxic cycles, and replay the same painful patterns, that's your emotional body. It's not logic that keeps you trapped, it's your wounds, the illusion of control. Many people believe they fully control their emotions, but unconscious influences often play a role. They suppress them, numb them, distract themselves from them. They drown them in work, relationships, addictions, and entertainment. Anything to avoid facing what's really inside. But emotions don't just disappear. They store themselves in the body. They settle into muscles, organs, and energy centers. And if left unprocessed, they start to rot. Ever met someone who carries bitterness like a weight in their voice? Someone whose anger leaks out in every interaction? Someone who seems permanently burdened by life? That's an emotional body choked with unprocessed pain, and the longer it stays, the stronger it gets, until eventually it becomes the master. Here's what most spiritual teachings won't tell you. You can't bypass the emotional body. You can't think your way into enlightenment. You can't jump straight to spiritual awakening while ignoring the ocean of unresolved emotions inside you. Your emotional body is the gatekeeper. You will only evolve as far as your emotions allow. If you don't heal, your spiritual experiences will be distorted. You'll interpret everything through the lens of your wounds. You'll project your pain onto your path, onto others, and onto life itself. This is why so many seekers never reach true awakening. They meditate, chant, and read all the books, but inside they're still carrying the same old pain. And that pain colors everything. A mind that is clear but a heart that is heavy will never be free. So how do you break free? You face the thing you've spent your whole life running from. You sit in your pain. You feel it without flinching, without numbing, without trying to fix it. You let the grief move through you. You let the rage rise and burn. You let the fear scream until it has nothing left to say. And then something shifts, not because you fix yourself, not because you force the pain away, but because for the first time you allow it to move. This is what ancient traditions meant by shadow work. This is why Rumi said, "The wound is the place where the light enters you. Your pain is not your enemy, it's your portal. But you have to be willing to walk through it." The death of the false self. The moment you stop resisting your emotions, something unexpected happens. The false self, the identity built on your wounds, begins to dissolve. You realize you are not your trauma. You are not your past. You are not your pain. You are something deeper. And this is where you finally glimpse the truth. The emotional body was never trying to trap you. It was trying to protect you. It clung to pain because it thought that pain was part of you. It repeated old wounds because it thought that's what kept you safe. But once you face those emotions, once you release them, the emotional body no longer controls you. For the first time, you are free. Carl Jung, in his work on the shadow self and individuation, believed that much of human suffering comes from resisting or repressing emotions, especially painful ones tied to trauma. He argued that the false self is built from these repressed wounds, identities we adopt based on past pain, societal expectations, and unconscious fears. However, Jung also taught that true healing happens when we integrate these emotions rather than resist them. By facing our inner wounds, we dissolve the false self and uncover the deeper, authentic self, the self with a capital S, which is whole and beyond personal trauma. The moment we stop identifying with our pain, we step into a greater truth. We are not just our past, our suffering, or our conditioned identity. We are something far deeper, a conscious being capable of transformation. Once the emotional body is no longer in control, something deeper awakens. A force beyond thought, beyond emotion, something ancient, something untamed, something you've always known but never touched. This is the spiritual body, the part of you that is eternal, the part of you that exists beyond this world, beyond identity, beyond everything you've ever known. But be warned, most people never make it this far, because the spiritual body doesn't just reveal your divinity. It shows you something even more terrifying, who you really are. And the truth is, most people aren't ready to face that. The fire you fear. But everything you think you are, your personality, your emotions, your history, is a mask. What if I told you that beneath the mind, Beneath the emotions, beneath all the layers you've built to protect yourself, there is something else, something raw and ancient, both terrifying and transformative. This is the spiritual body, and if you ever truly touch it, your life as you know it will end. People say they want enlightenment. They say they want to be free. They don't. They want comfort. They want relief. They want a spiritual experience that makes them feel good without actually changing them. That's why most seekers spend their whole lives stuck in an endless loop, meditating, praying, reading, chasing mystical experiences, but never actually transforming. Because real awakening is not a peaceful process. It is destruction. The spiritual body is not gentle. It does not whisper sweet words or hand you blessings. It burns away everything you think you are, and that's why, when most people get close to it, they run. They distract themselves with philosophy, rituals, with spiritual materialism. They convince themselves they're on the path while secretly clinging to their old self, because they know if they truly surrender, they will not survive. The death of identity. The moment the spiritual body awakens, something terrifying happens. Your identity, the person you've spent your whole life being, begins to crack. You start to see through the illusion of your own existence. You realize you are not your thoughts, not your emotions, not your body, not your history. And at first, this feels exhilarating, but then panic sets in. Because if you are not those things, then who are you? The ego cannot answer, because the ego is part of the illusion. It was never real to begin with, and now, as the spiritual body rises, the ego faces its final moment. It is about to die, and it will do anything to stop that from happening. When the spiritual body starts to take over, the ego goes into full-blown survival mode. It floods your mind with fear, with doubt, with distractions. It convinces you that you're going crazy, that you're in danger, that you need to turn back. And if that doesn't work, it will seduce you. It will offer you illusions of spiritual success, visions, mystical experiences, feelings of superiority. It will make you feel like you're special, like you've reached some higher level. It will let you believe you are awakening as long as you never actually let go. And the terrifying thing is, most people fall for it. They stay trapped in this stage for decades, some for lifetimes. Because the final step, the thing that truly activates the spiritual body, is something almost no one is willing to do. The leap into the unknown. To fully awaken the spiritual body, there is only one thing you must do. You must let go, not just of your attachments, not just of your fears, not just of your old wounds. You must let go of yourself. This is what every true mystic, every true seeker, every enlightened being throughout history has faced. The moment where they had to step beyond the mind, beyond identity, beyond everything they've ever known, with no guarantee of what comes next. Buddha called it cessation. Jesus called it dying before you die. The Sufis call it annihilation. It is the final breaking point, the moment where you either surrender completely or retreat into the safety of the false self. And this is why almost no one awakens, because the fear of that leap is unimaginable. If you take the leap, if you truly surrender, you will not be the same. You will still walk, talk, and exist in the world, but the person you thought you were, gone. The mind remains, but it is no longer in control. The emotions still move, but they no longer own you. The ego still whispers, but its voice is distant, irrelevant, and in its place, something else has awakened, something vast, something untamed, something that was always there, waiting. This is what the spiritual body truly is, not an idea, not a concept, not a belief system, but the raw, living force of existence itself. It exists beyond words, beyond validation. It does not require understanding, it simply is. And once you stand in it, once you finally truly wake up, everything changes. But even here at the threshold of ultimate freedom, there is one last challenge, because now, after all this struggle, after all this transformation, you must return to the world. not as the person you were, not as the seeker, the student, or the ego-driven self, but as something else entirely. The real challenge isn't breaking free, it's what happens after. Because once you've touched the truth, once your spiritual body has burned through the illusion, you're faced with something even more brutal. The world hasn't changed, but you have. And now you have to live here, awake in a place where almost everyone else is still asleep. Imagine standing in a crowded city, watching people rush around, lost in their own minds. You see the tension in their faces. You feel the weight of their emotions. You hear their words, but beneath them, you sense the fear, the longing, the quiet suffering they don't even realize they're carrying. And worst of all, you know they don't have to live this way, but they do. Because they don't see it, because they don't want to, because the illusion is easier. And now, here you are, fully awake, completely aware, standing in the middle of a dream that everyone else believes is real. The isolation of awakening. This is where most people break. They come back from deep spiritual experiences only to feel more alone than ever. They try to talk about it, but the words don't work. People don't understand. They try to fit in again, but everything feels hollow, fake, and suffocating. They try to go back to who they were, but that version of them no longer exists. And so they become wanderers, caught between worlds, not fully in the illusion, not fully outside of it, just drifting, watching, waiting. But there's something dangerous about this place, because the longer you stay lost in it, the easier it becomes to forget. The ego is patient. It knows how to wait. It knows that even after awakening, you still have habits. You still have memories of how you used to live. You still have people in your life who expect you to be the old you. You still have patterns, reflexes, and attachments, all pulling you back. And if you're not careful, piece by piece, thought by thought, those old patterns will rebuild themselves. They will convince you that your awakening was just a phase, that your clarity was just a dream, that your experience wasn't real, or worse, that it doesn't matter. This is how people lose themselves again. Not all at once, but slowly, quietly, until they're just another person sleepwalking through life. The trap of spiritual superiority. And then there's the other danger, the one that whispers, "You're different now, you're special." This is where many so-called enlightened people get stuck. They believe they're above the world. They believe they're separate from it. They walk around looking down on everyone else, convinced they've transcended the struggles of ordinary life. But this too is an illusion, because the moment you think you're beyond the world, you've fallen back into the oldest trap of all. Ego, a different kind, yes, a spiritual ego, but ego all the same. And just like that, you're caught again, not lost in the ordinary illusion, but lost in the illusion of superiority. And that, in many ways, is even worse. So what do? How do you stay awake in a world that wants you to fall asleep? How do you live among dreamers without becoming one of them? How do you hold on to what you've seen without being destroyed by it? There is only one way. You must return completely, not as the person you were, not as the ego you left behind, but as something new, something clear, something untouchable, something that no longer resists the world, but moves through it freely. This is the part that no one talks about. Awakening is not about escaping the world. It's about coming back to it with new eyes, living without the mask. When you fully return, something shifts. You no longer need to play a role. You no longer need to convince anyone of anything. You no longer need the world to be different in order to be at peace. You simply move. You speak when speaking is needed. You remain silent when silence is enough. You help when help is possible, and when it's not, you let go. You no longer fight illusions. You no longer fight yourself, because now you see clearly. And that clarity changes everything. But make no mistake, life will still come for you. Pain will still exist. A loss will still happen. The world will still try to break you, but now it cannot, because you are not a person trying to hold it all together. You are not a fragile self in constant battle. You are the vastness beneath it all. You are the awareness that watches. You are the presence that never moves. You are the fire that does not burn. And once you know this, truly know this, nothing can ever take it from you again. Not the world, not your mind, not even death. Because what you are is never something that could be lost. It was only something that had to be remembered. Awakening isn't just about seeing the truth. It's about holding it every day, every breath, through every storm, every loss, every moment when life threatens to pull you back into the dream. And this is where most people fail. Not because they weren't strong, not because they weren't wise, but because they weren't ready for what comes next. The seduction of forgetting. You've probably heard the parable of the bodhisattva, the one who reaches enlightenment but chooses to stay and help others wake up. Sounds noble, right? But here's what most people don't understand. The real danger isn't staying, it's forgetting. Because the world has a gravity to it. It will pull at you with its routines, its distractions, its endless waves of human drama. It will try to lull you back to sleep, not through force, but through comfort. A little compromise here, a little indulgence there, a little excuse, a little distraction, a little voice in your head saying, maybe I don't have to be so aware all the time. And that's all it takes, because spiritual sleep doesn't happen in a single moment. It creeps, slowly, quietly, until one day you wake up and realize you're just like everyone else again. And then there's the other trap, the one that catches even the most disciplined seekers. The belief is that awakening is something you can finish, that once you reach a certain level, a certain clarity, a certain depth, you're done, you've arrived. But here's the truth. Awakening is not a goal. It's not an achievement. It's not some mountain peak where you plant your flag and declare victory. It's a living thing, and the moment you stop nurturing it, the moment you start believing you've got it all figured out, you've already lost it. Because the second you stop growing, stop deepening, stop questioning, you've fallen into another illusion, a smarter illusion, a more spiritual illusion, but an illusion all the same. So if you can't seek it and you can't settle into it, then what? How do you hold on to the truth without gripping it too tightly? How do you stay awake without exhausting yourself? There's only one way. You must become like a river, not rigid like a rock, nor controlling like a dam, but fluid and free like water itself, moving, shifting, flowing effortlessly between the form and the formless, the seen and the unseen. Can you let go of the need to define yourself? Can you surrender to each moment without losing yourself in it? Can you walk through life without clinging to anything, not even awakening itself? Because the moment you try to own it, you've already lost it. Because awakening isn't about doing, it's about being fully present in every step, every breath, every interaction, being so deeply rooted in truth that you don't need to convince anyone of anything. Being so free that you no longer fear the illusion because you no longer mistake it for reality. And when you reach this place, something shifts. You stop trying to find answers, you stop trying to fix the world, you stop trying to escape, because now you are the answer, not in words, not in philosophies, but in the way you live, in the way you move through the world, untouched by it, yet fully in it. The power to shape reality. You've been told that reality is fixed, that the world is something you're trapped in, that life happens to you, not through you. But that's a lie, because if you've made it this far, if you've dismantled your illusions, burned through the layers of your false self, and stood in the raw, untamed presence of truth, then you already know the secret. Reality is shaped not only by external events, but also by our perceptions, beliefs, and actions. This is the final key, the truth that connects everything, the bridge between awakening and power. And if you can master this, nothing will ever control you again. You've heard it before, maybe in passing, maybe in some old book on esoteric wisdom. As above, so below. A fundamental principle of existence. Your outer world is nothing but a reflection of your inner world. Not sometimes, not when the universe decides to be kind, always. The seen and the unseen are mirrors of each other. The mind and the material are not separate. The world does not impose itself upon you. You project it onto the world. And once you grasp this, once you stop reacting and start creating, you become unstoppable. Most people live like puppets. They believe that life just happens to them, that they were born into a certain family, a certain situation, a certain struggle, and that's just the way it is. They go through life reacting to events, to people, to circumstances, never realizing they were the ones pulling the strings all along. Every thought they allow, every belief they hold, every emotion they feed, all of it is shaping their reality, not in some vague, wishy-washy, think positive way, in a direct, scientifically undeniable way, because the quantum world already proved it. Consciousness affects reality, and if consciousness shapes reality, then the question is no longer, why is this happening to me? It's, what am I creating? Here's what no one tells you about manifestation. It has nothing to do with begging the universe for what you want. Nothing to do with visualizing money or love or success and hoping it magically appears. Manifestation is not about asking. It's about aligning. When you align your four bodies, the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, your desires don't have to be chased. They come to you, not because you attracted them, but because you became the version of yourself that already has them, as above, so below. You don't try to manifest. You don't wait for things to happen. You become the cause, and the effect follows automatically. Right now you might be thinking, but if this is true, why do so many people struggle? Why don't they just create the life they want? Because most people don't know who they are. They think they're their thoughts. They think they're their past. They think they're the broken, conditioned version of themselves that the world shaped. And so, they keep manifesting from that place. They manifest from fear, from doubt, from lack. And because the law is absolute, as above, so below, that's exactly what they get. Not because they deserve it, not because they're cursed, because they haven't reclaimed their power. You cannot manifest from a fractured self. If your emotional body is still trapped in old wounds, you'll manifest struggle. If your mental body is poisoned with limiting beliefs, you'll manifest resistance. If your spiritual body is disconnected, you'll manifest confusion. But when all four bodies align, when you clean out the distortions, break the old patterns and return to your true state, reality has no choice but to shift. Because now you are the source, not the seeker, not the victim, not the one waiting, the source. And when you stand in that knowing, when you embody that truth, the illusion shatters, the world bends, and everything you once chased starts chasing you. You stop searching, you stop asking, you stop waiting for something outside of you to change, and you start being the person who already has the life you desire, being the version of you that no longer doubts, fears, or begs. Being the force that doesn't just experience reality, but shapes it. And when you do that, when you truly own it, fully embody it, without hesitation, everything changes instantly. Because the universe doesn't respond to words, it doesn't respond to wishes, it responds to who you are. And now you know exactly who that is, as above, so below. Now go create. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.